peace, and pugilism. Fight fanatics, this is Myron Magnus, and another segment. Deluxe franchise title undisputed segment of Boxing Logics United. Let's address the humongous elephant in the room. That is the franchise title, along with the undisputed title. And let me explain why I believe the two cannot coexist. Okay? From what I've gathered on the franchise title, when it first was given to Canelo Alvarez, then later on to Vasyl Lomachenko, was the idea was to help the fighters make undisputed happen, to not be hampered by mandatories, okay, through the WBC, so that they can attain and search for the fights that will bring about undisputed status for themselves. But here's the thing. The undisputed title and the franchise title cannot coexist. Here's why. Once a fighter, using the WBC as an example, has achieved undisputed status, the franchise title is then dropped. Why? Yes, let's use Devin Haney. If Devin Haney was the WBC champion, and say Vasyl Lomachenko had the WBO, Teofimo Lopez had the IBF, the franchise and say whoever had the WBA, say Tank Davis, Devin Haney being given the franchise title for the WBC will be able to go collect the belt from Vasyl Lomachenko, collect the belt, the WBO belt from whoever had it, and then the WBA belt, say, from Tank Davis. Once he achieved all those belts, the franchise title or status that was, say, given to him to help him achieve all of those is now null and void, because the goal of undisputed has been accomplished. See, I believe the WBC had a great idea, but they jumped the gun. Vasyl Lomachenko should have never been required or given the ability to relinquish the WBC belt. The WBC belt and the franchise title belt must stay hand in hand. They have to, in order for allow the WBC champion to unify all the other belts with it. Once the WBC franchise champion, the same as the WBA super champion, once undisputed is attained, there is no longer a need for a franchise champion, because now you have an undisputed champion. Devin Haney in that case should have been still. He should have still been the mandatory challenger. And Vasyl Lomachenko should have been the WBA regular champion along with the franchise champion at the same time. Once they were separated from Vasyl Lomachenko, that's where the confusion came in at. Okay? Once they were separated, it's where now the confusion and have everybody like, what in the world is going on? Because if you are the WBC champion, you need the franchise title in order to go around to avoid mandatories and go around and collect other belts to create an undisputed champion. And again, once you've attained, any fighter that's attained undisputed, which means he has the WBA, WBO, IBF, and the WBC, there's no longer need for a WBA super champion, and a WBC franchise champion. They're no longer required or no longer needed. And this is where I think the ball was dropped by the WBC, although it was a very, very good idea. Okay? Now, in the case where you have a fighter, say Vasily Lomachenko, who had the WBC, my apologies, and was given the franchise title along with that, here's where we must not let a fighter abuse the franchise title status. If Vasily Lomachenko is not able, being the WBA regular champion and the WBC regular champion and the WBC franchise champion, if he's not allowed to unify any of the belts within one calendar year, he must then be obligated to fight a mandatory the next year. That's the only way I believe we could do this without the franchise title or WBC franchise title or the WBA Super Champion title be abused by whoever the fighter that has the labels and the status. You understand? If they're not able to get unification within the calendar year with one of the other sanctioning titles, then they must be obligated to fight a mandatory the next following year. And that's how we refrain from the franchise title or the WBA Super Champion title from being abused by a fighter. And this is how we also erase the confusion. So understand again, the WBC franchise champion, okay, or a WBA Super Champion cannot coexist with an undisputed champion. Once a fighter has attained undisputed, both statuses or titles are null and void or no longer required, because the purpose for both of those status was to bring undisputed. I hope I'm clear, and I hope I explained this well for everyone to understand. Okay? If this is just my thoughts, I want you to tell me what you think. Tell me if it makes sense, which I believe it does. Okay? And if you think applying the rules, okay, and the stipulations I've applied in there can help us erase the confusion that the WBC franchise title and the WBC regular champion has created, along with the WBA Super Champion and the WBA regular champion. Again, a franchise champion, WBC franchise champion, must have the WBC belt to be a franchise champion. So in this case, Devin Haney is in like no man's land. To make this all correct, Devin Haney should be now considered a WBC interim champion, which is also the #1 mandatory at the same time. George Kambosos needs to fight Devin Haney immediately, so that now, boom, it's done. That there's no longer franchise champion, because now we have a true undisputed champion. And once you have an undisputed champion, again, there are only mandatories from that point on. Will it take from the pockets from the WBA and the WBC for as sanctioning fees? Yeah. But at least we'll have a conclusion to this entire matter that has the boxing world upside down. This is Myron Magnus. Peace and pugilism. One love. Tell me what you think about the video. I'm out.